everyone. Thank you for joining us here today at Leaders Uncut. It's so great to have you. And today I'm so excited to have with us Trish Moreno, who is an incredible woman. I can't wait for her to share her story. You will be so inspired. She is the founder and CEO of Independente after she has done so many incredible things in her life. So hi, Trish. It's so great to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, yes. So you have done so much. When you were telling me your story, I was just admiring your accomplishments. You are obviously a seasoned CEO, you're a brand leader, you have about 20 years of experience growing high-performing consumer brands across DTC, Amazon wholesale. And you're also the former CEO of Little Giraffe. So if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of a summary on your background, your life, where you're at now, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Yeah, so I guess I could say that my career started with BB, which was the women's clothing store chain. And it was an incredible opportunity for me because I was given an enormous amount of freedom pretty much right out of the gate, coming from a short history in retail. And I discovered the brand and thought, "Oh, there were so many things that I understood about how to grow it and how to make it happen in a way." And so I was given the opportunity to run the operations basically of the company. When I took it on, there were just a few stores, and we grew it over a decade to 85 stores and 100 million in revenue. And the founders were kind of at this inflection point when I took it on, where they were trying to do everything themselves. And you know how that goes. And they just really needed someone to come in and kind of take the reins and move the company forward. And I just had, for whatever reason, a vision for what it could become. And we got there, not without a lot of, ups and downs, but we did end up getting to that kind of dream place. So that was really my beginning of really getting, my hands in the business and learning as I went. I learned about culture. I grew a team from about probably 10 people when I started to over 1,000.
Wow.
And developed teams and worked with an outsourced agency or actually, no, I created an in-house agency for all the marketing and branding. And so it was a very exciting journey, and it opened my eyes to so much. And you know, it was one of the first tests of who I am at my core, which is basically, willing to do whatever it takes to make something happen. And that led me to, that was pretty much the first decade of my career. And it led me to a time where I felt like I wanted to have a baby and, move in that direction in my life. And at the time I was married, and my ex-husband was working in Los Angeles and I was living in San Francisco, and we were kind of commuting back and forth and trying to figure that life out and have a baby at the same time. So I ended up moving to Los Angeles and leaving BB behind, and got pregnant probably within 3 months, which, I think once you sort of shed off all that stress and,
Yeah.
the craziness of running a business and growing it and scaling it, I landed in LA pregnant. So that was exciting. And from there, I started really doing I started a business advisory because I had had so much experience with brand scaling and working. At that time, it was primarily brick and mortar. I had experience with outdoor campaigns and, spreads in Vogue and Elle and high fashion experience. And so I was in demand as a consultant. So I started a business advisory and just started working with young entrepreneurs that just needed a little bit of direction, and stepped into roles in different scenarios. I created the retail for Bizu Bizu during those years. I ran the Mart during those years in Los Angeles, um, and just kind of, took my skills from what I had learned at BB and how I had grown, and then shared those with
Mm.
people that were in need. And then from there, um, I from there, I kind of moved into Little Giraffe. I would say probably had around a decade of time, that landed me at Little Giraffe. And Little Giraffe was in a very similar position. We were in a recession again, which I had
Mm.
led BB through. We were in a recession, again in 2008,
Mm.
and I started thinking I needed to be aligned with a brand that was financed, funded, could grow during a time when a lot of other brands wouldn't be. And Little Giraffe was what presented. And so I became the CEO of that brand, working for private equity, and grew that brand to a 10x multiple exit on EBITDA over, I guess, about 11 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, that experience was amazing. I mean, I had to manage everything from, massive transformation in that business, from just being a wholesale business to opening the Amazon channel, D2C channel. I opened, we had multiple supply chain challenges along that path. If you can, imagine going through the last decade and then ending at pandemic, basically,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just showing pandemic showed up and everything shifted.
yeah.
So I really had an incredible broad scope experience running that brand, and put a lot of love into it, had an amazing team, and just figured out along the way how to scale the brand, and what areas we needed to move into and when. And then
Mm.
ultimately it was acquired, and I exited.
That's wonderful. Wow. So I'm going to stop there because already so much here and what you shared. First of all, congratulations. These are two major accomplishments with all the other companies that you've helped in between after you got
Yeah.
pregnant, right? I'm sure you were very busy there as well. So I'm curious, and I would imagine a lot of people have the same type of questions. What is the secret to creating a brand that genuinely connects with consumers in such different environments?
Mm. Yeah, I've really focused on creating an emotional connection in everything that I've done. And I think in part, maybe I'm weird, like I just fall in love with what I'm doing. And I think that is its own resonance, and it creates a connection on its own. But then, my focus is always on aspirational branding,
Mm,
and
mm,
how I love to create an opportunity for people to live to what the brand is about.
mm,
And I like to create moments that are going to be familiar. So Little Giraffe was a great example and a great opportunity of that. I created multicultural families, basically,
mm.
by but through my casting for all the photo shoots, and I worked with some amazing photographers that were great with managing little kids on a set and babies on a set. We had a tremendous experience, and a lot of the people that we shot actually were friends of mine, and so their children kind of lived the trajectory of Little Giraffe over the years, and so there was a lot of truth in that advertising.
Mm,
So it was
mm.
real moments, real experiences, the those moments that we have, when we're pregnant and the sibling is waiting for their baby sister. We have a photo of that moment, with the
Wow.
hands on the belly. You just kind of think through, what is the resonance of this brand? Who is this for? Who are we
Mm.
trying to reach? And how do we do that through making a real emotional connection and creating warmth?
Yes. Yes, that's so critical. I mean, I think it has always been very important, but I think it's more important now than ever because of AI, because there's so much fake out there. And I always say this and I emphasize that all the time. You have to be real. You have to communicate truth, just like you just mentioned, Trish. You have to be highly apologetic. It's so hard for me to say, right? Unapologetically authentic. You
Yes.
have to be absolutely you and have no fear as to what others will think because people see through the BS. They just do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's always been my approach. I think when
Yeah,
I come into a brand, people are often surprised because I'm instantly just me.
yeah,
You know, I have a theory, you bring yourself to work. And, I think authenticity is so important. And I'm real with my people, I'm real with my investors, I'm real with my customer. And I think it just sort of, um, radiates from that
yes,
center.
yeah.
And then you're looking for authenticity in literally every experience that you have with the brand and everything that you put forth from the brand.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Well, you were building very solid foundations
Mm.
that allow you to grow to the extent that you have grown those two brands because it is impressive. My God, wow.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a journey.
yeah, and I'm sure it was because it takes a lot. I know what it is. It takes a lot to build brands like that, especially when you have a child next to you, which is what you did, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I have so many news clippings of Ruby being in my arms at the parties that I would throw for the Mart when I was running
Yeah,
it. So, there's that's another example of bring your true self to work,
yeah,
And after running a brand that was very parent focused and baby focused, all of my team members were parents.
mm,
And so there were moments where kids had to come to work because there was nowhere else for them to go, or, schools got closed for some reason or another. I was always just very accommodating because I feel like it's so important to have that work-life balance and
yeah.
also to be able to care for your own children while caring for the brand.
It,
So,
it is so true, and I love this because I know that there are so many mothers that are afraid of having babies because they think it's going to cancel out their professional lives or destroy their career. But it is not true, especially now, because I see now a lot of people, including women, starting their own businesses, becoming more independent, getting away from the typical corporate life that is also evolving drastically. So I love your story because it is a confirmation that it is possible. And I think that people have to shift their way of thinking, develop different perspectives. Would you agree with that, Trish?
totally. I mean, I
Yeah,
remember when I made the choice to actually have a baby, and it was a very heart-wrenching choice along the way because of everything that you mentioned. I was so focused on my career. I didn't want that to fall by the wayside,
yeah,
but I also didn't want to have a child that I just turned over to somebody else and wasn't active in their upbringing and their experience because I feel like I have so much to offer in that
right.
way as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So finding that balance and being okay with making that choice was very challenging for many years. And then I think, when when it was lucky for me in a sense that I transitioned away from BB and had my first example of that sort of space that gets created when you're in between two segments of your career. And you don't realize that necessarily at the time,
Mhm.
but in hindsight, you see it so clearly.
Right,
It's
right.
like coming off of this, tremendous experience with developing BB into what it became, and then all of a sudden silence, just
Mhm.
this sort of chasm that you find
Mhm.
yourself in,
Mhm.
um, was very challenging at the time. But when I think back, how I filled that was with a child. It's a
Oh,
pretty
see?
big deal.
Yes.
So, it's almost like I needed that that experience of quiet in order to get to that phase of my life. And I think a lot of people, when they find themselves in that situation, don't honor it necessarily. You know, I think it's an important thing to be honored because it's inserted into your life for a reason. You know, and you can't be just like this your entire career.
It's not possible, and a lot of people are scared of moments of silence. This is why they always have to turn on the TV, turn on music, be around social circles, because they cannot face that void that is very scary. It can be very scary for most people, but you're right. It's only, I believe that too, that it's in those moments of silence that you are forced to reflect on yourself, and you're forced to truly feel what it is that you are, and maybe uncover what we call purpose. There are many other names that we can give that purpose, or that calling. It's more of a calling, and you feel that. I think this is why you felt you wanted to have a baby, because you knew you had to go through that time in order to reach the next chapter of your life, right?
So true. Yeah. And then you become a working mom after that.
Yeah.
That's a whole other experience,
Yes.
right?
For sure, for
Trying to
sure.
manage that and be good at both.
You have to, but again, I think this is a great example as to anything's possible if you set your mind to it, and you always find a way. You always find a way, no matter what. So this is great. Thank you. That's a great background. I think it's a great start here. So I would love you to start talking about what you're doing now. Talk about Independente. What triggered that initiative in your life?
Yeah. So it's a great question because I've really sort of been an artist all the way through my executive career. Sidelining it in many ways, but learning and growing as an artist at the same time that I was running these companies, right? And I've always been that sort of right and left brain person. It's just not enough for me to be one or the other. And how I channeled that through my career was in art direction, creative direction, design, fashion design, product design, you know, having the vision for the photo shoots, all of that, right? And so you're using that creative side of your brain, but you're switching a lot, you know? It's like operations today, creative tomorrow kind of feeling. And, you know, you try to keep yourself sane, right? But in each of those spaces that have been, I've been presented with between these big, you know, gigs in my career where I was running companies and developing brands, I've always returned to my art self and really got deep with it. And so in this last moment, so here's the example of this other, you know, another example of a chasm that was kind of presented in my life is coming off of Little Giraffe and, you know, having it sold to a company that's taking it wherever they envision, and being presented again with that kind of, you know, after my exit with that empty inbox and that quiet, you know. And what happened for me is I became very introspective about what do I really see my life, where do I see my life going from here? And there were a few things that sort of prompted me into creating Independente. The original prompt was, what if your art could be scaled and into wallpaper? And I was like, wow, that's so interesting. And at first, my first thought was, well, it can't, because, you know, the files just aren't big enough, right? But that anyone, you know, just give me a challenge and I will figure it out. And so it became this kind of obsession, really, of trying to figure out how to scale my art into murals that could be evocative in an environment, much more so than a canvas, right? And so that began the journey. And I just started cranking out so many designs. And I just, once I get in the zone, I lose track of time. And it's really almost like a sacred experience.
Yeah.
And so a lot of designs just sort of came to me and started pouring out of me. And there were prompts along the way where people would say something, or I would be inspired by a photo, or someone would send me an inspiration. And it just flowed. And when you're in that zone that you're doing something that is very deeply connected to your life purpose, and that's right for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. I love that. Yes. So that's great. So this is what you're doing now. And so what's the process, and how does that work? Who do you work with? I mean, I think that would be interesting to understand a little bit more in more detail.
Yeah. So, so along the path, I I got very discouraged at a certain point because I was working with a printer that wasn't able to scale my files, even though I thought I had done everything right.
Oh,
And I kind of fell into this space of I was hearing a lot of negatives and I was feeling like, maybe this isn't going to work, and I didn't
yeah.
have really any support. I always kind of joke I was fired by a printer because they were just like, Trish, we love your stuff, but we just can't print it. We can't make it. And I was in Italy feeling a bit dejected, honestly, about the brand at that moment. And so I was in Bologna, and we weren't very far out from Modena, and there was a printer there that was a friend of someone I was traveling with. And he suggested maybe we should just go there and chat with them and see if they can help you figure out kind of
Mm,
what's the next step here.
mm-hmm.
Um, and we did go, and we're in Italy. It's just so great. You're like, you're the art department is facing the hills of Emilia Romagna, and
Yeah,
like, I mean, it's just
yeah,
unbelievable compared to the kind of lifestyle we have here in Los Angeles.
yeah.
Um, but I met with them, and they were kind of stumped at the beginning. They loved my work, but they were stumped on how could they print it. And I ended up kind of entrenched with the art department for maybe an hour or two. And we did some things to the files. And it was so funny because, you know, they have like three monitors in front of them with the hills behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And the monitors are Photoshop in Italian. And personally, I hadn't used Photoshop in several years because I always had a team that I was
Yeah.
delegating those tasks to. But I was, familiar obviously with Adobe and the Creative Suite. And so I'm watching her do this work to my files, and it's almost like I got into this like video memory of what she did. Even though it was in Italian, I was just like memorizing all the drop downs and things that she did that kind of just tightened up my files to the level that they needed to be. And then she felt ready and she sent it off to the warehouse down the hall, and they printed out the files. And we stood there in utter amazement
Really.
because I had, as I said, not been able to make this happen with the prior printers. And they came out beautiful.
Isn't that great?
And that memory of her, like, you know, work that she did on Photoshop stuck with me, and I was able to apply it to all of the files that I had previously created. And now I have a whole different workspace. Like, I have multiple apps that I use to create the designs, but I finish everything now in
In
Photoshop
Photoshop.
and fix it, basically, tighten everything so that it can be scaled. And so now I've had, my files are scaling to as large or as high as
Yes.
is required by the job. And it's really, really exciting because no one's really doing this mural
Mm,
thing where it's original art
yeah.
that is scaled up into murals. And I had to pretty much crack that nut in order to, I
See?
was pioneering something and I didn't even realize it,
See, you went to the land of the creativity of the true artist, and that opened the door. Sometimes you have to do things like that, detach yourself from your own environment to find yourself in an area that you don't know. You meet people you don't know, and then suddenly doors open, right? Isn't that interesting how
Yeah,
that happened? Yeah,
so cool. It's so cool.
yeah.
So they ended up becoming my printer. And so all of my goods are printed in Italy,
Okay.
which is, great for the brand.
Yes. Yes.
And my launch was in Europe and the UK. So my launch of the brand in February, it's on a platform called Material Bank, and it is a site that is shopped by architects and designers.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically, the way you asked me how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll help under everyone
Yes.
understand because it is a very specific process.
Yeah.
Um, so what happens is we provide swatches to Material Bank, and Material Bank basically holds these swatches, and architects and designers shop the site and can choose multiple brands. So if they have a project and they want, they have to pull flooring and tile and wall coverings and fabrics, they can get it all swatched by Material Bank, and then it gets shipped to them in a box, and they're very timely. It's either overnight or 2 day, depending on the location. Everything is stocked in France,
Okay.
and um, and then it's shipped out throughout Europe and the UK. So I have in my launch been just out of the gate, it's been great. Um, I think because my designs are very different than typical wallpaper, I think it's just been so well received,
That's
and my
wonderful.
leads are consistent, and so it's very exciting.
That's wonderful.
So, yeah, so then what happens is as the project's near completion, and it is a bit of a long lead time, right? Because if you're designing a hotel, it could be 2 years before it actually comes
Yeah.
to the finish of construction, which is when my finishing material gets put in,
Mm.
right? So, so what will happen is the leads will contact me directly, the designers will contact me directly, and then we get field measurements and field dimensions, and then I send that through to the printer, and we're off and running, and they do the
Oh, so
installations.
you do all of that through Materials Bank, or the printer?
Yes.
The printer is separate, right? Or is it part of?
The printer is separate,
Yeah.
and the leads come through Material Bank, and so I
Mhm.
get to make those connections through Material Bank, and then
Okay.
as the projects come to fruition and
Hmm.
do the installation, and I communicate directly with the client and with the printer.
What's an
So
amazing, that's just an amazing business. When you first mentioned that to me, I said, oh my God, this is genius. Because I mean, it's not just new buildings or new hotels or new homes that would need something like that. It's also renovation, redesign, right? I mean, you have
yeah.
a lot, I'm sure that's also a huge part of your business, correct?
Yes. So there's a lot of refurbishment that happens in
Yeah.
the hotel chains that have been
Yeah.
around for a long time. There are new hotels, boutique hotels coming up. There's in my experience so far, I've been about probably 50% residential and 50% commercial, and
Okay.
commercial includes hotel, other hospitality, spa, restaurant, workspace.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I love it, and it's so beautiful, of course. So you have to keep designing and providing new designs regularly? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so
Mm.
I have about 90 designs total, and those are, I think most of them are represented on my website. I might have 60 up on the website right now. I'm holding some for later releases,
Yeah.
and then I'm constantly designing. And I've launched 30 on Material Bank.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then, like my goal I think Independente is a very unique brand in the space, and I want to always stay that way. And I feel like it's people are attracted to like the frequency of what I'm doing, right? It's
Mhm.
like a very special resonance out there in my mind in comparison with, typical wallpaper that's geometric
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
repeat it's a repeat pattern
yeah.
or a floral pattern or what have you. All of my work is original art murals. So it's a different kind of space that comes alive with that. And it it's a space that holds and resonates with
Yeah,
people
yeah.
in a way that's very different. So I think those people, those designers, those architects find me because there's a certain connection that we
Hmm.
make,
For sure. I believe in
through the
that.
work.
Yeah, no, I believe in that. And it's a different way of bringing art into a house or maybe a bigger environment, a larger environment.
Mhm.
Because very often, I mean, you can have paintings, but it doesn't have the same effect, or it can be in addition to the wall art too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay,
So
great, great. So wow, I mean that's just a fascinating world because of course you have the business part. I'm sure you're business savvy, so that must help you grow this artist business as well, right? I'm sure that's
yeah,
beneficial.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I have, applied my art to other businesses in the past. And I've been commissioned as an artist and I've done some shows, but this particular business, it just feels like the culmination of everything that I am.
Yeah, yeah, makes
It's
sense.
it's the business side of it, it's the artistic and creative side of me, and I have the ability to scale it and to see a vision for it, ahead of me.
Yeah.
And it's got the potential to be something pretty significant.
Yes, I
And
believe
I
that.
think it's hard to find something as an artist that you can do with your work, right? That is scalable to the level that something like this is.
That's exactly true. I love that for sure. It gives another dimension to the possibilities out there with art, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
For
and I haven't even, really explored the US market yet, which I know is bigger than all of Europe and the
yeah.
UK combined. I'm taking my time. I'm not in a huge rush. I feel like it's really important to do it right.
Mhm.
I've been just in the last couple of weeks meeting with some reps at the Pacific Design Center, and I have other people that are shopping the brand around the country. And I think that is, there's opportunity there that's completely uncovered at this
Mhm.
point.
Mhm. For
So
sure.
that's
For
a very
sure.
exciting precipice to be
Yep.
on the
Yep.
edge of.
Oh yeah, though I'm sure that you're gonna do amazing. I can't wait for us to see that brand spread out all over the world, right? It's coming, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
very excited. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just got a lot of potential, and I think it will happen in its due time. It's important to allow it to kind of unfold and not
that's
to
right.
force anything. And
That's
that's where
right.
my head is at with this. And this is really the first thing that I've ever done that's truly just mine because
Yeah,
all of my other experience has been, taking over founder-led businesses
yeah,
in an executive role, um, and or just working with private equity.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
well, it's a new venture that gives you a lot of freedom, I'm sure. And because you have a lot of freedom, you can probably expand your creativity to levels you were not able to before.
yeah,
Yeah,
super exciting.
yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Trish. It's just great. And wow, I can't wait for everyone to meet you and see what you're doing. And hopefully you have a lot of hotels and people that could use your art connect with you. So I always ask my guests at the end of our conversation to share a story of resilience, something that you have learned in life that has taught you incredible lessons, what would that be, Trish?
Mm. Yeah, I so many things actually come to mind. I would say, though, probably related to Independente, I would say that period where I was faced with not seeing the road forward,
Mm,
where I felt like no one around me was seeing the road forward. And it was such a challenging place to be. And there was just this part of me that just believed that I could hear myself talking about the success of the brand. It was like this movie playing in the back of my mind, just knowing that I was going to get there. It was
mhm.
an absolute certainty in my heart. And everyone around me was like, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Like I
Yeah,
told you, I was being fired by printers.
yeah,
Um, and I just persevered and I got through that space. I think there's this song, I want to say it's Chumbawamba or something, and the song was I get knocked down and I get up again. And I
yeah,
just blasted that song because I had to tune out the
yeah,
noise that
yeah.
everyone was hitting me with. And I just had to believe and I had to keep moving forward. And I think by doing that, I knocked down a lot of obstacles.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that really is a familiar founder story of
yeah,
resilience
yeah.
because those of us that get through that are the ones that actually end up with a brand. And
So
the
true.
ones that give up never will see the light of day, right? So
So true. So
it's
true.
perseverance, and that's kind of what wins in the end. So I would say that that's the most resonant story for me about Independente.
I love it. And you're right. Oh my God, that's a mistake I've made when I was when I was very young in my 20s. I studied a business and I listened to naysayers who told me it would never work and I gave up.
Yeah.
And then I regretted it. You're right. People, first of all, they don't know. They don't know what you know. They're not you. So they cannot tell you whether it's going to work or not. And a lot of people do that because they know they can't do it themselves. So it's easier
Right.
to try to put down someone and prevent them from going to that success that they know they can reach because you have done it before. So you're right. Never listen to naysayers. Never give up quickly because most people do, and you have to be resilient, and nothing great happens overnight. You have to be patient, and just like you are right now, you don't go you don't attack the global market right away. You start in Europe wisely, you grow it, you learn from your experience in Europe, in Italy, in France, and everywhere else, and then you probably will generate information that's going to be critical for that global expansion. So that is part of the journey as well, having the wisdom to wait, having the wisdom to not rush things, and to also be okay in those quiet moments, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, to that point, I can remember times in my life where I was in that space of silence that we referred to earlier, where I was so terrified. It feels like a tower moment, like everything is just crashing and crumbling around you. Everything that that space of safety is no longer there. And I can remember being so scared in moments along my path, right? And now I'm kind of in that again, but it feels like the collapse of the structures around me are leading me to where I need to go.
yeah.
And it's not as terrifying. It's much more welcome, actually.
Mm,
And I can really feel at peace with it and feel that this is where I'm meant to be.
yeah, yeah,
And I am absolutely heading to this space that doesn't require the structure that I previously built in
yeah,
my life. It
yeah,
requires a different structure, a fresh structure.
yeah.
And that is what I am in creation of.
That is a beautiful way to end this conversation. My God, you are so right. And we are all experiencing a different level of consciousness right now. The earth is evolving. We are all evolving as human beings. And I think the ability to let go of what we have known up to now, let go of all the structures that made us feel safe, where when actually it was totally unsafe, probably more unsafe than it is right now. And I think that ability to develop that perspective, to listen to our gut feelings, to listen to our heart, and be okay with the change that we all have to experience right now, because every single one of us has to experience change right now. and
Yes.
and, and that is not negative, it is a positive things, because I think it will also allow us all to awaken those creative senses that very often were buried so deep inside of soul that we didn't even know they were there. So all of this is something to be very aware of, something that's going to elevate us to leading probably healthier, more balanced lives, and that will allow that creative sense to create, to generate elements in our lives that can be critical to our survival. I really believe that.
It's a beautiful thing. It's definitely happening all around us to so many of
Yeah.
us. And though I think the less resistance that we show or that we feel, the more likely we are to pass through it quickly
Yeah.
and to come out on the other side. And so, yeah, I think so many of us are in this really transitional space. And, you know, hopefully that's meaningful to a lot of your listeners, because I think there's a lot to be gained from how we approach these times.
And that's so very true, and I agree with you so much. Thank you so much, Trish, for your time today with us on the Leaders Uncut show. I so appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It was lovely chatting with you again.
Yes, likewise. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. I am sure you enjoyed this conversation with Trish. I mean, look at that. What an incredible businesswoman who is also an artist. And that happens to many of us. We have a creative side, we have a business side. And sometimes when we have a chance to combine them, then we can really achieve incredible things, even more incredible things than we achieved in the past. So let's make sure you listen up to those senses that you have. Maybe you've always loved doing something and you have never done it before, you haven't done it before for a long time, and that's something that you maybe did during your childhood. You were attracted to certain level of art or music, and you let go of it because you wanted to be like everybody else. So maybe now is the time to just open yourself up to those possibilities of being able to live what you absolutely love doing, and take that chance, because I am sure it will open up some doors for you that you have never thought of. And it's not without taking that risk that you'll be able to experience that next level of life that could be potentially pretty quite amazing. So I encourage everyone to just do that. Take a little bit of a chance. Now is the time, and you will see, maybe uncover certain sides of you that have been dormant and that just need to be awakened. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you again, Trish. Please share this video with your network. It's important to share stories like that. A lot of people need inspiration. They need some positive news now, and they need a way to believe in all things possible. And please subscribe to the channel. I need your help to continue doing what I'm doing, and give it a little bit of a like if you like it. And we will see you next time.